So the current setup is that it will remember what chapter we were last working on. So they're chapter 6, and it says, do I want to include earlier chapters? And if I choose that, then the earlier chapters are included. So there's 20 words for learning in every chapter. So if I only have chapter 6, I've got 20. If I select the earlier chapters, that gives me 120. So that's the current format, but we're going to change it to something that looks a little bit more like this. Um, so a couple of things, or a few things have changed here. First of all, we're seeing 40 chapters, and that's because book 3 takes us from chapter 33 through to 40. And I know in the UK, book 3 isn't out yet, but it will be out at the start of next year, sort of January, February time, something like that. So we thought we might as well deliver all of that now. And of course, it is out in the US. So for those of you using this in the US, the students will now be able to see all the way through to chapter 40 for the vocab. The other thing that's changing here is that we can now select any combination of chapters that we want. So here I've got chapter 6 selected. You can see that's in light blue, but I could add in chapter 5, 7, and 8. And now you see I've got 80 words selected there. So we can choose, I'll just deselect 6, 7, 8. We can choose any combination of chapters we want. I can have 5, 12, and 13 if I want. It would be a bit unusual, but it's possible. And the reason we're doing this is because teachers have said, please could we have the option of the students choosing a block of chapters, and that might be because you want to give them a test on chapters 5 and 6, or 9 to 12, or whatever it may be. So the students can choose any combination of chapters. I'll just choose 5, 6, 7, and 8 there. And it's telling us at the bottom that's 80 words, because there's obviously 20 in each chapter. The numbers here that we see under 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 15, 12, and 23. What is that? Well, that is the overall percentage competence, if you like, of the student on that chapter. So this is me coming in to the trainer as though I'm a student, and you can see student Will is doing quite well on chapter 4. I've got 73% score there, but I'm not doing so well on chapters 2 or 3 or 5, 6, 7, and you can see chapter 18 I've only got 1% competence so far. Where there's a grey box with a dash, that just means I haven't started on that chapter at all. So we thought we'd put these overall competency rates up on this sort of selector screen, so the student can, when they land on it, can think, oh, and maybe I need to work on chapter 12 or chapter 13. Make it a little clearer to the students where they're strong and where they need to work. Those percentages, if we just look at, for example, chapter 5, I've got 12% there. They are the percentages from here from the review. And again, if you're not sure how those are calculated, we've talked about that elsewhere. It's also here in the help text. Actually, it will explain there how we calculate those percentages. But going back to the setup, mainly to say then the two main changes for the students, now they can see through to chapter 40, and they can choose any combination of chapters. Once I've chosen those chapters, then I can hit train, and it's going to start to take me through those words in the normal way. The actual functionality of the vocabulary trainer itself hasn't changed. It will introduce the words as flashcards, and then it will go for multi-choice, and then as the students get better at the word, then it goes to type in and so on. So I'll leave that there from the student's point of view, because that's all that's going to be changing for the students. I want to take you through to some changes now that we've made also from the teacher's point of view. So this is a class of demonstration students. So you can see, obviously, it's a group of made up names down the left. I should say also that if you are joining us from North America and the US, you won't see this word list, Subrani, Educast, and OCR set of radio buttons at the top. That's just for UK teachers to allow them to filter out some of the words for particular exams that we do here in the UK. So don't worry if that isn't making much sense there. So here we are, relatively similar, I think, from the on the teacher's screen here to review how each of the students are doing. This is, as I say, obviously a group of made-up students. As always, we're seeing when the student last logged in to work on the trainer. We have got rid of the duration information because it was open to abuse, really, with a student just launching the trainer and then going off and watching, football or soccer or whatever it is, or making some tea. And the thing would still tick away for 15 minutes, even if they weren't doing anything. So we're not displaying the duration anymore because we found it wasn't really reliable. So the first set of sort of data you get are the total words that they've seen. So how many questions has the vocab trainer generated? And then how many of those have they got correct? Okay, so you can see that Abel has done, well, seen 25,000 words. She's been on this a lot. She's got 21, almost 22,000 of those right. And I can order that. If I click the top of the column, I can order that by the number seen. If I sort of get the other way around, then Candy Cane is lowest in the class, 3,400, but a pretty good strike rate of 3,241 correct. So let's organize them by their names. So that's the first set of data you get, and that doesn't change. Then once we go over to the right of the screen, we get this data as usual then for how the students are doing on any individual chapter. And again, I can, click on that here. I'm clicking Candy Cane and I can see, okay, she's 100% through here, but, down to about 50% in chapter 7. I can look at her scores on each individual word if I want to. We've changed this a little bit. We don't see the progress bars, across the screen anymore from 0 up to 10. We just have the numbers and the colors. And the colors get lighter and head more towards green as the students do better as the scores go up. So that's relatively similar. The average then is the average of the number of chapters I've chosen. So I'm looking up to chapter 26 here, but if I bring that down to chapter 15, those averages are going to, the average of the chosen chapters will change because I'm reducing the range of chapters that we're looking at. But let's take that back up to 26. The main thing I wanted to show you this evening, or we wanted to show you this evening, is this introduction of the history tab at the top. And I think this should be extremely useful to us as teachers. So I'm going to click that history. And you see again, well, it says what chapters do we want to look at? So let's leave that up to 26. Let's ignore word lists. Sorry if you're with us from the US. These dates are displaying for me as a UK teacher in the UK style. And Tony, if we're North American teachers, they'll display in the North American style. Is that right? Of month, then day?
That's right. You should, yes, adopt the locale of the user. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so under UK styles of dates, this means the 5th of August through to the 19th of November. So that is, if we have a look at this now, it's just showing us where Annabelle was at the start of Monday, the 5th of August. That's her sort of scores there in that top row. And then these are her scores on Tuesday, at the end of Tuesday, the 19th of November. Those are her scores. And so this third row then is how she's progressed between those two dates. So that's saying that she's seen between those two dates almost 5,500 words, and she's got roughly 4,500 of them right. And so her average overall for these 26 chapters has increased by 17%. And we can see that it's in chapter 11, 12, 13, 14, for example, there that she's made progress. Terry Bull hadn't even started then on the 5th of August, and so he's made a lot of progress since then. Now that's a long amount of time to look at. If, like me, you want to see what have my students done, over the last or over in a particular week, I may have set them some homework to do a certain amount of work, from that week and the 11th of November to the 18th of November. Let's update now and see what's happened in that period. And this is quite interesting because it reveals that Anna has done quite a lot, over 500 words. Terry has generated 100 questions, but in that particular week, Candy and Al Dente, Frank, Sally, some of these students didn't do anything at all in that week. So that allows you, if you're setting the students to do a certain amount of questions a week, it allows you to choose these dates, hit update, and it will show you what they've actually done in that time. So as I say, Frank there, nothing, Al, nothing, Candy, nothing, Terry, about 100 words. He's got roughly 85% of them, isn't he? He's got 85 out of 101. Right. It's also telling us that, Terry here, he's logged in twice to do this. Candy, is this telling us, Tony, she's logged in once but didn't do anything when she logged in? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so she opened it, but walked. She might be one of those students who turns it on and hopes the duration ticks away, and she sends out a message that she's done something. But she actually hasn't generated any questions. So we're hoping that will be quite useful for you guys as teachers. Just one or two other things to say about the sort of the data that this shows here. If we look at Annabelle, she's done 526 words and she's got 350 of them right. And Terry similarly has done 100 and got 85. 101 got 85 of them right, but their percentages haven't changed. Now that's probably because if we look here from 1 to 26, and even if I open it up, and as a UK teacher this is just showing me up to 32 so far, but even if I open it up right to the end, they've done a lot of words, but if you look at their individual chapters, their scores haven't gone up in the individual chapters, which suggests that they are working in chapters where they are already at 100%. And, I think we can all sort of think of students who might do something like that. We may have asked them to spend 5 minutes, or in my case, I usually ask my students to do 300 words, 300 words seen for a homework. Well, I can see why they might want to focus on chapters where they're at 100% because they know all those words, so it's going to be relatively easy. So they haven't actually made any progress with increasing their overall score because they've already probably, I think, been working in chapters where they're already at 100. If we come down here, you can see if we've got Teresa Green here. Teresa's done 86 words, but it has knocked up her percentage by 1. Bear in mind that to get their percentage up by 1 point, they need to, doing the maths on this earlier, Tony, they have to really get 20 marks up, I think, don't they, overall, to is it something in that region, or 20 positives?
I think they could go up 2 points. Two right would take you up 1%. Because 200 would be 10 goes at 20 words.
Yeah. Well, I think that would get them up 1% in the individual chapter,
Yeah. Oh,
but
overall. Oh, yeah. Yes, you're
over,
right.
yeah, their overall
Yeah, yeah.
percentage, then would, it takes more effort to move it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Uh, so have a look at that there. Teresa, she's looks like she's been working in chapter is that 15 and 23, for example. Um, so that's one of the reasons when we were looking at this data that we thought actually from a student's point of view, if we head back to this, it might be quite good to remind them of which chapters, they can already do very well and which chapters they're struggling a little bit. So that's the history function. I think probably the main use will be to see, in any given week or a few weeks, who's been working and who hasn't. But you can also, as I say, look in more detail at the individual chapters and see, are they working in the right sort of area?